Okay, so starting off what we have some of our tools here. First thing that we're going to start off is with the wedging board. The reason I wedge the clay is to get any of the air bubbles out, so I'm going to do that really quick. Now this is a pretty big piece of clay to make a clay tile, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my clay cutter tool, which is made of wire with wooden toggles at the end, and I'm going to cut my piece of clay in half. Okay, so really quick, we have the wedging board is made of plaster, we have our piece of clay. Alright, we'll move the plaster out of the way. To start us off, as far as rolling out our slab of clay to create our tile, clean my surface a little bit here. We're going to start out with 2 wooden slats. The wooden slats are going to set the thickness of our tile. Okay, making a tile is a fairly easy process. I already have one presented over here, and I'll show you some of the details that are in that, but I want to go through the actual process of rolling it out and making the shape of the tile. So first we're going to use our wooden slats that are going to set the thickness of the tile. Okay, it's about 1/2 inch. Alright, that way if we need to carve away material or we need to make indentations or make patterns or designs, we have enough clay to work with. So I'm going to use my rolling pin. This is a textured rolling pin that I created. Ribs in it. Okay? And I'm going to use that to roll out my clay. We're going to use the smooth side, which will be the opposite side of what I'm rolling here. Okay? And you may see some of those indentations, you may see some of those shadows created on the clay. That's caused from this tool. So I'm using the slats because that's going to set an even thickness for my whole tile. Okay? And there are 2 ways that you can do this. You can either make a paper template, which would be to cut a square sheet of paper or a rectangular sheet of paper, depending on the kind of tile you want to make. Usually tiles are square. Okay? Take a square sheet of paper, cut it to a specific size, whether it's 5 inches by 5 inches, or maybe larger or smaller. And you would roll out your slab of clay and then lay that piece of paper on top and cut around the edges using a straight edge. Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to flip this over quick. Okay, I have a nice smooth surface. Now, there are a couple bumps in here, so I'm going to use what I call metal rib. And I'm going to take that rib and I'm going to compress my clay and try to smooth the surface out as good as possible. Okay, go one direction, go across the clay, go back. Okay, and you'll see it creates a nice smooth texture. Okay, next part, I'm going to use my wooden slat. I'm going to use the fettling knife. The fettling knife has a nice sharp edge on one side and a blunt edge on the other. Okay, you're going to use the sharp edge to cut your tile. And you don't need much force because clay is very soft. Okay, and metal, you have the metal edge to cut through. Alright, we take any excess clay, we put it back into a pile, and we can reclaim it and reuse it later. Alright, next step, we are going to use a standard size ruler, 12 inches. Alright, and we are going to measure over, let's make this tile 4.5 inches. Alright, and I'm going to make a mark at the end. Alright, I'd actually like to, I'm going to cut a nice straight edge while I have it there. Alright, and I'm going to remove that piece of clay. Alright, so I know that that's 4.5 inches across. Ruler's sticking a little bit. Clay's wet. That's good. Alright, measure 4.5 inches again at the bottom. Make a mark. Take my ruler, or better yet, use my straight edge of my slat. Cut the other way. Remove the excess clay. Alright, right now you're just seeing the rectangle. I still need to cut my square. I know that it's 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, so I need to go here from this side, and I'm going to measure down from this mark that I have. I'm going to measure 4.5 inches on this side and 4.5 inches on this side. Now the reason I make 2 marks, it's kind of like those Sunday papers where you get those connect the dots. Alright, and that's what I'm doing with this. I'm connecting the dots so that I can make my shape. And I'm going to cut that edge. And I have my shape. Now I could also go in here and I can compress it a little bit, make it a little bit more true to the square shape that I want, okay, because the edges do get a little folded when the clay is very wet. Alright, and now comes the time for using our different tools. Now I used all kinds of tools. I used tools that you find at home, I use tools that you find in nature, I use tools that are handmade and specifically used for ceramics. Okay, some of the tools that I use that are from home, somebody had this as a gift. It was like it came in one of those kits with a back massager. Okay, great tool for making indentations in the clay and rolling. Okay, this was a cake decorator that I had given to me because somebody said, "Oh, I'm never going to use this thing. Why don't you take it? You can use it for your clay." All right, you press that in. Good for making indentations. Now you're seeing that's not releasing very easy. I like to use a little bowl of oil, okay, and putting oil on that edge of the tool, okay, is going to make it so that it won't stick inside the clay as much, right? And I can more freely make my desired texture without having to worry about peeling the tile off of it. Alright, another tool that I'd like to show you are some of my loop tools. This is a great tool to use for indenting or carving away. So I could indent and then I could just swoop and pull and I can carve away. And I just want to peel this up and show you a closer look. So I indented with my loop tool, pressing in and pulling away. Alright. I also have a variety of sizes and different shapes of those. Some of the Nature Made that I was talking to you about are my seashells. Again, I like to take a little bit of oil, put it on my fingers, rub it on the shell, okay, so it doesn't stick, and then take the shell and roll it and press it. Alright, so making a bunch of different indents. Now each of those indents, what it's going to do, it's going to cause, when we get to the final stage in glazing, it's going to cause the glaze to settle in, and you'll catch those little bits of reflections of the different lights and the shadows that are created by these indentations. Okay, there are a couple other tools that I want to show you really quick. I have some sharp tools, some needle tools. Okay, those are good for making small dots in the clay, okay, little crevices, okay, fine details. Alright, you can also use them to draw lines. Alright, same thing with this tool, it's a Sgraffito tool, which is for scratching away. I'm going to go back over that line I just made and make it a little bit thicker with this tool. Okay. I have another metal rib that we can use. This metal rib has a serrated edge, it has a fine toothed edge to it, and I'm going to use that to scratch the surface. Okay, it's like a comb. I also have a variety of wood tools that you can use to press, indent, okay, and make a texture that you want. Now I suggest that you take a variety of tools, you test them out, you see what they look like on just a scrap piece of clay, and then you can try it on a final piece. And I hope that this has helped you understand how to make a texture tile and how to make our abstract texture tile. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I hope that I can help you as much as possible.